public education, from the beginning, has the number one charge to educate knowledgeable young people who will be fully participants, leaders of a democratic society. It requires a certain amount of deliberation, thoughtfulness, to engage fully in a democratic society. So for me, that was such a central part from the very beginning that I just couldn't imagine not doing the school in which student voice, teacher voice, parent caregiver, to the degree that they have time and energy to give voice in to the running of the school, that we need all of those as part of the helping young people getting the driver's license for being able to drive our democracy.
I thought I knew a lot about ACS when I came for the first day, but I learned a lot more about ACS and the way it works and how you go about doing your daily activities. And I was really impressed on how it was really community-based.
Compared to other schools or the school I used to go to for elementary school, this is this is totally different, so it shouldn't really compare, but really this is the best I've gone to.
I was in Ohio, a little town called St. Paris. This would have been in the early 70s. Judy and I, at that point, our kids were really, school age. We had actually taken them out of the little St. Paris school and were homeschooling them because it was so abominable. And we were looking at that point, we realized we needed to kind of settle into a community and to see if we couldn't do something better with our education of our own kids. And so at that point, realized that Ithaca had an alternative school at the elementary level, the East Hill Alternative School, and we thought, great, kids could be in the alternative elementary school, we could start the new junior high program, and it would be a great place to kind of settle down for a number of years to kind of raise the kids through the schooling years. So again, this was happening as I was anticipating, looking for and applying for the position of what was really called teacher administrator for the new junior high program, that you would be 6/10 teacher, 4/10 administrator, and we would begin with a population. I think the first year we actually had 65 students, and we are in the what's called the Markles building. It was the former gas and electric building that now, of course, is a question of whether they're going to preserve it because of the pollution that is apparently in the ground from the storage tanks of when it was part of NYSEG in New York State. When we had moved after 3 years, and we continued to grow over a junior high period, and there had always been the intent, the board had said in creating the junior high program, if it proved successful over a 3-year trial period, that then the board would consider expanding to a high school and including that. So we outgrew the building where we were and had to move somewhere, and so there was this huge meeting held in the Boynton cafeteria with the school board. And it was their decision. What are we going to do? Move the new junior high program, which we were still called at that point, into DeWitt or into the wing of Ithaca High School. Boynton was packed to overflowing. You couldn't believe that cafeteria would hold so many people. People from the community, parent caregivers, teachers, not only from new junior high program, but from other schools, and people from GIAC, people from group homes, from Ithaca Youth Bureau, all spoke in favor of us moving into Ithaca High School, into the E-building wing, because there would be a chance to grow, to bring in the high school population, that we could expand the whole operation. I was the last person to speak. It was a very powerful moment for the whole school, for the community, and to standing ovation when I finished, and the board voted 8-1 to move into E-Building Wing.
Anywhere you went, if you left E-Building was the building that was for NIJIP folks or ACS folks. And I remember having like stuff thrown at. Really, there was quite a bit of animosity and suspicion of our school. So I remember walking across the IHS quad. I don't know where I was going, but or why I was venturing out. And I remember them saying, "Are we allowed to swear? You can it out. So you fucking Zobo," and somebody throwing something at me. And essentially, Zobo was a reference to a hippie band in town, the Zobo Fun Band. I didn't even know what they were talking about. I mean, I was in 7th grade. I listened to the Beatles, and it was at that point also a school. The perception was for kids who were struggling a lot, which is true. In fact, there were two parts of it. There were the kids whose often sort of liberal professors' kids, to overgeneralize, and then kids who had been thrown out of the other schools because there was no other option for those kids at that time like there is now.
It was a very interesting mix at the beginning because there were students who were very rebellious or very creative. Kids who felt like they couldn't fit in the regular school system because their intelligence was higher or their creativity was not mainstream. And then there were kids who just literally had been thrown out of schools. And then there were kids who just felt more comfortable in a very small environment and didn't feel comfortable in a big environment. So it's a very, very bigger mix of students than we have now.
When I first came here, this school was a lot about theater and drama and music and art, and that was almost the direction of the school, because a lot of the kids who didn't fit into the normal school situation were fitting really nicely here because they created their own society. And theater and dance was really happening. It was a big thing. I mean, that's why if you think about the amphitheater and the building of the amphitheater, and that could never happen now. Not because of funding, because there just isn't that push anymore. I mean, there were 4 plays a year, and now we're struggling to do 1 or 2.
Before I came to ACS, I didn't know what the school was about. I just kind of was forced to come here. In the end, I loved the fact that I was forced to come, but at first I didn't want to come. So the only things that I heard about the school were the negative things about ACS, not structured, and that it's for rejects, and that, all the bad people go here, all the kids who got kicked out of school came here, and, it was just a bad school to be at. And I guess I was shocked that it wasn't the way those people said it would be.
Before I came to ACS, I was a family therapist, and I came to this school for 1 year while the regular counselor was on sabbatic getting her degree actually in family therapy. And I loved it here. I loved being a part of the community. I loved being in contact with the kids. And what I realized was that, in fact, I could have more effect on helping kids change their lives in this setting than I might be able to have as a family therapist.
I came to ACS via Ithaca College and studying filmmaking and getting interested in politics and education and the work of Paulo Freire and alternative education, and discovered ACS, fell in love immediately. I remember the first week after I discovered ACS as a college student, I sat in a group of other college students, maybe 8 or 10, from Ithaca College and Cornell, and John Orkin and another staff person were leading a group for volunteers, and we went around, and the person ahead of me was saying, I don't know about this place, it's kind of weird, and the next person said, they call the teachers by their first names, and I don't know how to take this, and somebody else talked about how messy the school was, and the next person talked about how kind of crazy the kids were, and it got to me, and